If you made it this far in the video, here's a little bonus. It's a technique you can use to where you can use the rally flag on someone's calling me. Alright. Yo, what's up guys? I'm your host, Mr. Yuck. Thanks for tuning back into my YouTube channel, MrYuckForever. All one word, baby. So today we're going to be doing an advanced review on the machine gunner and the commando, and why I typically only run this setup when I'm attacking Red Skull bases. We're going to be going over what perks I use on both of those units, the pros and cons of running machine gunners and commandos, and lastly, what type of vets I like to keep for attacking when I'm using this layout. It's just a super OP setup, and I'm going to be going over pretty much just everything that you need to know if you're running this squad. It's just super overpowered, and that's one thing that we're going to be talking about as well. Is it too OP? Is machine gunner and commando, running those together in your attacking squad, is it too overpowered? Does it need to be balanced a little bit? And so hopefully you guys stay tuned for the entire video, and hopefully you guys enjoy. So let's go ahead and start off by talking about the commando. The hero perk I would prefer on him is probably Endless Clip, but since I don't have Endless Clip, I can choose between Bloodlust and Volunteer. And the reason why I don't like poison bullets is because we're either going for more health regen or more units. We don't care about poisoning, guys. We want to either have more commandos or have them regenning their health. So as you see in that last clip, as my dudes are rounding the corner, my commandos are doing an insane amount of damage, and having a 10% health hat on top of ultra health, that's 900 base health. And a triple veteran commando is going to have over 1400 health, which is just insane. That is unbelievably tanky. And I prefer to also run with damage and rate of fire. Now, you can run accuracy, but I mean, if you're going to run accuracy, you're going to either have to take off fire rate or damage. And I would just prefer more damage than having my guys more accurate. Having them just kind of spray everywhere is one of the pros and cons of the commando, but I would rather just go for that more fire rate and that more damage, and let the accuracy be at 54%. That's kind of whatever. So now let's go ahead and jump into the machine gunners. Now, as far as the machine gunners go, still got to go with damage and fire rate, but their base deployment rate at 500 munitions is just outrageous, and that's just not viable. You have to go with some sort of minimum wage. Legendary or ultra minimum wage is definitely preferred on the machine gunner, and the reason why I run volunteers over bloodlust on my commando, I can switch them obviously, is the machine gunner's deployment rate, his cooldown is only like 10 seconds. So the chance of me getting another machine gunner quicker than me getting a commando, I mean, it's pretty obvious. I definitely got to go with the volunteers on the machine gunners. And I don't go for health on these guys, obviously, because of the minimum wage. But that's why, as keeping my veterans, I just keep all commandos. They're gonna have higher health anyways. And so there's just absolutely no reason for me to keep machine gunners over commandos as my veterans. That would just be absolutely retarded. So next, let's talk about some of the pros and cons of running this setup. And these are some past people I've attacked. Hopefully they've changed their bases by now, because I don't want to give out any base details on anybody that I'm attacking. I think that's kind of cheesy. And so some of the pros that I really like in running this this setup is they just destroy random extra barrels all the time. I mean, that random spray damage that's just fucking going everywhere. You have a high chance to destroy barrels that might be in your way. I mean, that's kind of obvious. That's awesome. And they also have a really good chance of destroying extra walls. A lot of times where you come into like choke points and you maybe have like snipers that can peek through a wall in a tree, or bombardiers and stuff. Commandos and machine gunners have really good range, 25 and 24. And so if they see you through that crack in the wall, they'll just start shooting. And with their bad accuracy, they'll just break down random walls. And you can see right here, my units are just happen to destroy a bunch of random extra walls, which is awesome. You know, it's like having some bonus focus fires. And since I don't have the kernel yet, I really like the fact that they can do that. The high health is absolutely amazing on commandos. It's almost too overpowered. Having triple veteran commandos, a lot of times, if you're in party chat with me, you'll hear me say, "Oh man, I'm gonna have to take this hit," you know. And you know, they're tanky enough to take bombardiers, to tank rocketeer shots, sniper shots, and that is absolutely just super OP. And another thing that I really like is when you're using a focus fire with them, it's just unstoppable. They literally wipe everything in their path. I mean, everything is destroyed in front of them. So that's kind of how I ended up designing the HQKO. Was the fact that I was trying to just wipe out everything in front of my focus fire, and it ended up just destroying headquarters. Now, if you watched my last video, you heard me talk about the rally flag and the HQ KO. And the only reason why I'm leaving the victory at the end of the battle is not to show you the person that I'm defeating, is to actually show you how many veterans I still have alive. And so I didn't want people to think that the only reason that I'm running this setup is just for the HQ KO. That's not it. But you can get a lot of HQ KOs with this setup. Now right here is an epic fail with this with this first decoy, but whatever, man. So here's another great example of an HQ KO. I've done absolutely no damage to anything inside Razor Champ's base. And I'm going to focus fire on something midways back. His right shield step in front of his snipers, and my guys are just going to keep shooting till the focus fire runs out or that unit is destroyed. Another easy HQ KO. I did the headquarter KO. Now, before I was running commandos and machine gunners, I was typically running snipers and sharpshooters as my main two damaging units. And what I found that I didn't like in some circumstances was when I'm coming across bases with bombardiers and rocketeers. I can't, you know, obviously snipers only have a base 200 health, and sharpshooters only got a base of 300 health. And as soon as bombardiers and rocketeers hit me, that's it, man. You know, if they hit you once, you just got absolutely pooped on. And I was finding that I would just have to use my decoys earlier than I wanted to, and I hated that. You know, I want to wait till I'm like right at the choke point, you know, if possible. And so here's another great example. My units are kind of splitting up. A couple of my commandos are up there at the top. But having that bloodlust on the commandos is so crucial. Like coming around this corner right here, and we're gonna just slaughter like everything in this path. Whether you're hitting walls, bunkers, units, I mean, it doesn't matter. Those commandos are going to regen an insane amount of health. And they just accidentally wipe out everything in front of them, whether it's sandbags, walls. You'll see here on this lower section, accidentally destroying walls, sandbags, and extra spray damage to like all units and buildings behind them. And that to me is just too good. It's just too good. But you may be thinking, all right, maybe this setup is too overpowered. So let's go ahead and let's talk about some of the downsides to running this setup, because there are some downsides. Don't get me wrong. So some of the downsides has got to be, if you don't have endless clip, Commando's reload speed, if you haven't completed the medal, 5 seconds. And if you have, it's still 4 seconds. It's slow as shit, even if they do get a big clip. And machine gunners, their reload speed is still 3, and that's still extremely slow. Also, machine gunners cost. A lot of times, if you're not around like level 50 where you're getting queued up a decent amount of munitions, I mean, it's hard to run that setup. I mean, machine gunners cost a lot. It's like even commandos cost a decent amount. And sometimes, dude, this setup is just not viable if you don't know what you're doing. And I was scared for a long time to run this setup. You know, I really didn't feel comfortable running this. But now I do. And another thing that I like to do, another pro that I really like on this setup, is the fact that you can deploy your veterans like really early. And I always deploy them all. Right there you saw me, I had a chemist. That was back when I was trying out this defense with commandos or whatever. But you can just deploy all of your veterans in the beginning, man, and have like a real aggressive approach to defeating people's bases. So right here you'll see me focus fire in the back, and you just see it wipe everything in front. Pretty much what I was just talking about. So let's get back to some of the negative aspects here, some of the bad stuff. One is the commando's cooldown. 17 seconds is pretty long, to be honest. You know, if it was any lower, you know, that would just be more beneficial to me. Would I think would that need to be nerfed? Yeah, it can't be lower than that. So that is one of the downsides. Now sometimes the commandos, the machine gunners, they seem a little slow on targeting. Especially if buildings or units are to the side of them. They don't seem to turn very fast, and that's definitely a downside. The slow targeting and turning is definitely terrible. And sometimes the bad accuracy and range can actually be a negative aspect on this setup. And what I mean by that is, yeah, it can be a positive. You heard me talk about the positive side. But sometimes that random spray damage will trigger Rocketeers and Bombardiers to fire back, to auto-fire back on you. Sometimes that'll wreck your squad. And sometimes just seeing something at the line of sight at their max range, that's something in front of them, they have a hard time shooting that. You know, if they see a single sniper coming at them and it's a commando versus a sniper, it's like, yeah, they have low health, but the commando is still gonna have a hard time with that because he can't pinpoint shoot that thing. So you have a kind of a catch-22 with the accuracy and the range of these two units. And one thing that I like to do to boost their range and damage a little bit more is I always run with sergeants, always. And I haven't exactly pinpointed down how much bonus damage and accuracy they give you, but I can assume that I think it's maybe around like 10%. And now we'll take a little look at a defensive replay and see if they're even viable as defense, as using them on defense. Now, I've tried a bunch of different setups, and running commandos as your vets, that is also one of the downfalls. Having them as your veterans on defense can be very hard to set up a base like that, centered around them. But here's a great replay in which Prince Dove pretty much gets worked. And so I like to have a multiple choke points with commandos and then have them on either side of the choke point. And I like to have them up close to the edge of the choke point. And up close, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, they're not gonna miss if you're just coming right around the edge. So he deploys all of his veterans, and you see him just one by one just walk in there. And at this point, there's literally nothing he can do. I think he burned all of his attack cards early, and they just keep getting slaughtered every time they walk around the corner. And so sometimes I like to run a single chemist if you can place them right on the sandbag. If you can get their units stunned right when they're coming around that corner, commandos will absolutely poop on them. Obviously, you could probably use just like a tear gas on them if you don't have iron lungs for defense. And iron lungs for attacking with commandos is very pointless. So I never have that on there. I could even have endless clip, which would still be great for defense if I had an endless clip. And so commandos can be OP, like really OP on defense, but to actually have a base that can defeat all sorts of attacks is very difficult, and that's one of the downsides. I probably lost them 45 out of 50 defense trying to set up a badass defense with commandos. And so let's go over another little aspect here.
That was almost a flawless attack.
So on this last part, we're gonna take one last look
Popped the barrels perfectly. My fire
at the tankiness and overall sustainability of this setup, along with which veterans I typically run with. So for me, on most bases, I tend to run with 2 surgeons. And I love running with 2 surgeons because the fact, if they can pick those commandos back up, Hunter Business, we back in it to win it. And if you can't bring down my commandos and they keep getting picked back up, that's super irritating. I prefer not to run with surgeons in my army for the most part. I've tried it a couple times. But even with rapid deployment, their cooldown is pretty low. And I'd rather just like to keep 2 of them on my veteran squad. Plus that extra health is really nice. It's really efficient in all sorts of bases besides Rocketeers and Bombardiers. If your unit dies from that explosive damage, whoop, hey, there ain't no getting back up. Surgeons ain't gonna pick you back up, and fuck it, that was useless. Sometimes I just run with all 10 commandos, but for the most part, I typically always run with 2 surgeons, 3 surgeons. It's also amazing, absolutely amazing, for bases that have snipers. Bases that have pretty much all snipers, I mean, it doesn't matter. Having at least 3 surgeons to where your dudes can keep getting picked back up, I mean, it's just super irritating, and it will ensure victory. So right here is JMD Vega. His base was pretty solid. And on this attack, this is where an attack can go from bad to worse to worse. And I mean, and you'll just have to see. I mean, I don't really want to spoil it, but let's just say he has flamethrowers in this base as well. I mean, you saw it on the Q setup, and it's very interesting to see how I pull this off. I mean, and I'm telling you, it goes from bad. I mean, and it goes from bad to worse real quick, But luckily, my commandos are just tanky enough to hold off. To some good things can happen, and we slowly build back up from there. And this is another thing where you should never panic in an attack. You know, sometimes I watch people's replay, and obviously I can't hear their voice, but to me, it's like from what I'm looking at in the attack, I'm like thinking, man, this guy's really panicking right now. And this is where I stayed calm. I stayed calm, even though I didn't think anything good was gonna happen here. So we're just kind of baiting out these commandos. Alright, we thinking everything's going good here. Alright. So the commandos are down, and I'm looking at these flamethrowers. I'm like, okay. I'm like, that one's gonna shoot through the crack in the rock. I'm like, that one might shoot through the crack in the rock. It's probably gonna get me when I come around the corner. I'm looking at all these barrels. I'm trying to get a good placement on this bombing run here. I'm like, okay, maybe like right about. And like right when I'm trying to click it, oh, all my grunts die. It pulls back the screen, right? And I'm like, oh shit, I gotta queue up my dudes. Holy cow! So the truck's damn near one shot. Managed to pop that barrel. Luckily, I accidentally deploy my chemist all the time. I try to save him. But my chemist actually kind of comes in clutch right here. That's all I needed him to do. That's all I needed to do. So I'm like, okay, we'll get rid of this barrel. Perfect. I'm like, can we get rid of these guys real quick? I'm like, okay. That don't look too bad. But the rock, my guys are having a hard time focus firing right there. And now, this is where the pain starts happening. I'm like, okay. I'm like, alright, can we get him? Can we get him? Are we gonna shoot through the crack? Phantom fires hitting me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting wrecked. Okay, the other anti-air is down. I'm like, make something happen. And he's still not dead. Okay, we managed to stun him. It's like, oh my gosh. I'm like down to no munitions. But my commandos were holding off long enough that for the rest of the dudes that I was spawning in, they weren't quite getting fried as well. So that was kind of nice. I'm thinking I need to slow my group down. I need to bunch them back up. I see a rally flag coming in. It's like, I'm going to have to use my focus fire right here. I'm like, shit, I got no munitions. I'm like, dude, I need this rally flag right now. Right now, come on, give it to me. Barely get the rally flag in time. Couple extra walls broke down, sweet. Summon up all we can. We got one decoy. It's like, alright, there's a lot of crazy walls here. It's like I don't wanna accidentally target these guys early from the guy I'm just killing down at the bottom, so it's like gotta get rid of those dudes. Oh my gosh. So clutch. I get a tear gas right there. And here my guys just start going ham for the clutch. They just start spraying through. Break down some walls. And Hannah Bennis, we back in it to win it. Yo, thanks guys for checking out my video. Yo, really appreciate it. I got a special guest that wanted to leave one last comment on why he thought commandos are so OP in this game, and so let me turn the mic. Yeah, this is Arnold, and let me just tell you right now, that was an amazing video, Mr. Yuck, and thanks for having me on your YouTube channel and on your video. I really appreciate it. I've been watching all your shit all the way back from like Modern Warfare 3. Then let me tell you, the reason why commandos are so OP is because of the big giant muscles. I mean, think about it. If I was going to be a unit inside the game, I'm definitely going to be a commando. I mean, check out the giant fucking gun that they got to carry around. I mean, it's just epic. And that would be like the character I would be if I was in the game. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, if you want to think about it, are commandos and machine gunners really overpowered? No, not really. They are probably like the best units in the game, but they definitely have some downfalls. The fact that they absolutely suck dick on defense has got to be one of the greatest downfalls in the game. But as far as attacking, they're absolutely amazing. And with that being said, until next time, motherfuckers, I'll be back. And don't forget to subscribe to Mr. Yuck and MrYuckForever on his YouTube channel. Check out his Twitch streams. And if you don't, I'll cut your body up into little tiny pieces and your family will never find you. Until next time, hasta la vista, babe.